Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2, 1. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We have a huge warning for you. Again, it is something that I believe everyone should at least heed and at least listen to. Of course, we are going to talk about the preemptive strikes from NATO. They're talking and mulling over a preemptive strike against Russia to stop Vlad from waging a shadow war across Europe, says a top admiral. We'll talk about all of that tonight, again, on Marfoogle TV, so stick around. We will be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys, and welcome back. I hope everyone had a really great Thanksgiving, especially folks like Craig Alicious. Thank you guys for your support over on the Super Thanks. Again, Craig Alicious, actually, great comment. I just read that today. Says, what you just described as your first UFO sighting, mine, is exactly what I saw. A shooting star making a perfect 90-degree turn. Impossible. That moment sent me down a rabbit hole. I was talking about years and years ago, again, about when one of the Hellbop or whatever that was one of my first seeing something that I just absolutely could not believe. In fact, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I haven't seen something since. But that's really cool. And actually, I've heard that from one other person as well in the Foogle fam, that they saw it from Orcas Island. So that's pretty interesting that we all saw this weird thing. Either way, thank you so much, Frank Walls, Michael J. Jeter. We've got Guns and Water. We have, of course, Penelope. Thank you so much, Matt Allen. Let's see here. And Dr. CMAC is in the house that we were just playing your song. Sean, CTX, James, Blazing Bird, and so many more. Thank you. Blazing Bird says, Marfopotamus. Thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, that's probably the most creative name today. All right. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so we're going to get into a very alarming story, and I believe it ties into a lot of things, but the Afghan DC terror suspect was part of an elite ex-spook-backed strike force known for its brutality. Dex, do you want to talk about this? And this is the person who they caught, again, that took out the two National Guardsmen.
Right, and one is perished, and one is still
that's right.
Struggling to stay alive. So prayers are still needed for them. But look, the Afghan immigrant suspected of carrying out the ambush on the National Guard troops in DC was once part of a CIA-backed paramilitary strike force with a reputation for ruthlessness. So his unit, the NDS-03, was operated by the CIA and had direct U.S. intelligence and military support. The paramilitary units, which were manned by Afghans, were trained to carry out night raids and covert missions in Afghanistan. So just think about this, like rewind back when we were embedded in Afghanistan, we were fighting against the Taliban and others. Groups like this would have been engaged with our CIA, even engaged with our military to perform actions and duties. So that's the environment that he was in. He's had a history of doing that, but also a history of working and direct ties with the CIA. It certainly then begs the question, like, what was the motive and why did he do what he was doing, and where else does this lead, and where else do we go to from here with this information, right? Because it's pretty eye opening when you think about the connections this person has that perform this heinous act.
Now, my opinion and many others, that this isn't some just random thing that happened. I don't think that this guy just has PTSD from his time over there. Because think about it, if he was possibly trained by the U.S., a lot of the guys over there, they also spent a lot of money, had the best of the best training their guys as well, the people that were working with them as allies to go into their own country and to do these kind of operations. They saw a lot of horrendous stuff too. So, some could say that maybe this guy just snapped. Maybe he is PTSD from all of the stuff that went down over there. He made it over here, and then something just snapped when he saw a soldier or something, right? But I find it really hard to believe, and the fact that it is connected with all of this. Now, meanwhile, this event has been the kind of the sole push now for the president to make a statement, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which is essentially we want to ban all of the third world countries from entrance into the U.S., right? So this is getting absolutely crazy. Not to mention this list that they are going over, all of these places that the U.S. would rather not have people in, right? All of these places are essentially adversaries too. So I just think it's very, very timely. Right now, as this goes on, Tom Homan just sent a huge, huge chunk of DHS and ICE out there. I guess they're doing this massive, massive raid in Dearborn, Michigan. And this is just right after they had a big, I guess pep rally, or I don't know what they would call it, but where these people were chanting death to the U.S., right? So it seems to me like they are not fully filling the civilians in on this matter. I think that there's something much, much bigger. And it's also not what the media has painted it as like, oh, the cartels are taking over apartments and the cartels are taking over a country. The cartels are working for somebody. And the government, U.S. government, and most of these governments know exactly who those cartels are working for and which cartels are working for who. The thing is when the U.S. government sees cartels doing stuff like this, they go, okay, well, we have intelligence and we're listening to cell phones. We know that they are somehow tied back to, said country. And I'm being careful to say which country now, because now they're they're full on trying to go, if you look at any of these countries and say that these may be bad people that came in, that's some sort of hatred towards them. Again, I just want to reiterate, I love all of the people of the world. I just don't love all of the governments. So yeah, this is very, very crazy stuff, and it ties into everything. So we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about Sarah Adams' predictions as, and I'm sure there's going to be people that aren't believing it, but before Sarah Adams ever put out those predictions, what Sarah Adams said, and maybe you could claim that it is something that went along with my bias, right? My bias that, that there is some big, massive event going on already and that there is something big planned. But at the same time, it lines up with almost everything I've been talking about with other countries potentially trying to take the number one spot, to causing trouble, to all of the people that in our government that basically turned a blind eye while all of these things that looked so strange to all of us Americans were happening for 4 years straight. It was like we were living in somebody else's skin. Just a drastic change in such a short amount of time was just wild. And that was after, of course, 2019, which that in itself, many people believe that World War III actually started then. And that may be not exactly what they say it was. And they aren't able to tell us the whole truth about anything. Dex, you were telling me, so too, you believe as well that even if all of this stuff was going on, President Trump wouldn't, even if he had receipts, he would never come out and say it, and say that said Eastern country or something like this was trying to take over. Can you give your opinion on that?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I guess the hypothesis was that the second largest country in the world that's trying to be number one was funding these other countries to do and perform these types of things. If that was the case, and even if he had that information, I don't think he would bring it to the public. He may try to stop it by, as we're going to talk about later, like he's pausing migration from the third world countries. So he might try to stop it, but I don't think if he had proof that he would actually come out with it, because it'd be too easy for his adversaries to completely destroy him as a conspiracy, and it would be hard. I don't care how much receipts he's got; it just wouldn't work. It'd be one of those cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs kind of stories that everybody would just eat him up over. So,
which is why people think I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You look at all of this and you go, they're being absolutely careful. Because it is so crazy. Like the South Korea situation, that in itself, the fact that the president, the very top president, this man was respected, very well educated man. Not a weirdo, they've painted in every country, they've used the same playbook and painted one candidate on one side to be almost an identical copy of our president, right? Every country has done this. Now, they've made him that crazy man. He declared martial law, and he's crazy. Yeah, this certain Eastern country is trying to infiltrate South Korea. Yeah, right. Okay, well, we're going to cancel your martial law, and we're going to spend 2 weeks trying to arrest you out of your, presidential palace. Meanwhile, the people that hardcore followers, like a giant chunk of his country is behind him and believes him. The media there is the same, conglomerates that own the rest of the world's media are telling everybody, no, nobody supports this. Nobody supports him. But in the truth of all of it, there are millions that supported him actually looking into this. He was saying that country was infiltrating into his highest offices of rank, and that there was basically a planned kind of takeover going on. And what happened? They impeached him, made him look crazy, and then, of course, now whoever got put right into place is now working very closely with North Korea. That just seems really, really convenient, doesn't it? Especially one of our high-tech, allies that actually makes a lot of really crazy military tech and robotic tech and AI tech and things like that in South Korea. So I don't know. I think that this is all connected. Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras, all of this. And people are going to say that's crazy. It is an opinion. It is not fact, right? But in my mind, and again, my mind's made up on what I believe is going on, because I don't think this is all about saving us from the zombies in Walmart parking lots. I don't. And as much as I would love to see that happen, I don't think that that's what it is. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. But yeah, he's vowing to permanently pause migration from third world countries after this event. Now, the U.S. government knows what this event was. We don't. Well, I'm saying they know exactly what it was. I bet they have information that we don't. We have the basic information, but one thing makes you think, like, this guy had CIA backed. If some CIA group was going to do it, why would they have a guy that somebody could easily go look and see that he was a CIA backed person? Could another country turn or flip a CIA agent and have him do something like this, or a CIA trained guy like this? So then it applies that CIA thing and it makes those theories circulate. If you look at what's happening right now, a lot of the theories that circulate, a lot of them, I have to question myself all the time too, because a lot of these theories that circulate is to just circulate so many theories that nobody knows the truth. It is actually a strategy. They've done studies on human beings. They've done studies on society, And they've learned when there's so many different truths, no one knows what the real one is, right? You can if you just circulate 2 stories, people are going to pick one. But if you circulate 10, people have so many options for the truth that they just literally cannot make up their mind. They cannot believe, and they will be open to believing almost anything, and even 2 stories at the same time. So yeah, this to me, something is massively wrong with what's happening right now. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. Penelope, nice to see you. Let's see here. We've got Stephen McMahon. Thank you. And again, thank you, Craig Delicious, for your support the other night. Eric's Place, thank you for being a member for 7 months. Says one giant stage. Yeah. I mean, if you look at how the corporations have chunks of every single country, including our adversaries, it's kind of crazy not to think that, we know money rules the world. It would be pretty easy to even coordinate adversarial countries, sort of like the Rockefellers did back in the day, sort of like the families did when they were supporting, 2 sides of a war. They would give, cannons to one side and they would give cannons to the other. They didn't care. They were selling cannons. They didn't care who won in the fight because either way they were getting paid. All right, and then we have Putin's Satan II missile explodes on takeoff. Dex, do you want to talk about this? This is obviously not a great look for Putin.
No, not by any means. But look, their Satan II intercontinental ballistic missile exploded after crashing back into Earth in yet another failed test. The nuclear-capable hypersonic missile, dubbed the world's deadliest weapon, was launched from the Yancy test site in Russia, Orenburg region. Just seconds after liftoff, the Sarmat RS-28 rocket veered off course, emitted black plumes of smoke before the fiery wreck plummeted to the ground. The missile landed near the launch pad in a huge fireball, emitting a purple cloud of smoke into the sky. And I'm sure everybody was also curious, were they going to be damaged by the output that was coming from this? But, despite this, Putin expresses hopes weeks ago that the Sarmat would be ready next year, saying this year we will put the Sarmat through combat trials and next year we'll deploy it on combat duty. But it looks like these trials aren't going very well if they're not getting off the ground and literally crashing back down. This is that nuclear-powered missile, so I guess it does have some potential for miniature disaster too if it makes a mess after it crashes.
Yeah, and as far as that's a missile that supposedly, if the thing actually works, I mean, it could go indefinitely around and round and around and around. All right, and then Angelo Provelli says, blah, ha, 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 Russia. James, nice to see you. And Nanny Anderson, nice to see you as well. Hey, nice to see you. So many old school Foogle fam in here as well. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is our recommendation for protection against not only an EMP blast from an adversary, but also against a CME from the sun. Now, I just want to mention, there was an email asking information on basically, they were having a debate about the EMP Shield. I would highly recommend anybody that have questions about EMP Shield, email us about it. If you have questions about this thing, this is the same tech and the same device that is being used by agencies like DHS, DOD, the DEMSA team. Now, I did not understand the argument between electricians and things like that until it was actually explained to me in a very clear way. So if anybody wants a clear explanation of why, most people don't understand how this is just so much crazier than any other surge protector out there, then please email us. We've been standing by this product for more than 5 years, 6 years now. So again, this is something that we absolutely believe in. We think it will save lives. It's already saved houses. We've already had Foogle fams had lightning strikes. And in one case, Dex, what were the devices? So the device is designed, if you get hit with lightning, if it's wired into your house, to burn up. That's as designed because it's supposed to take the burn, not the house. But what did he lose? He lost a thermostat and a coffee maker. Is that right?
Yeah, probably things that were not connected to the electricity. But look, we've also had Foogle fam members that were in a multiplex, like a triplex building, I want to say it was 4 units, and only 1 unit had an EMP shield on it, and the EMP shield protected all 4 units when it got struck by lightning. Like none of their electronics got wiped. So, but of course, if it does take a direct hit, it can be replaced for $50. They stand behind it. It's designed to eat up that energy quickly.
And so here's the other thing. If a massive EMP blast goes above Kansas, that's one of the big fears for most preppers. If that does happen, you have this on your car. This is going to ground that signal before it fries your car. So that way you will be able to get home to your family or get out to bug out. If you have this on your motorcycles, your trucks, your generators, whatever you want to keep running, you want it on. And in the home version, that will actually extend to everything plugged in within 250 linear feet of where it's wired in. So this thing is an absolute phenomenal device. Make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. You get $50 off per device with our code MARF, and that stacks on top of their biggest sale ever, which is their Black Friday this year. This is bigger than the previous 4 years of Black Sale Fridays. So again, make sure to go use that code MARF because you are going to get both sales at the same time. marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. Especially if you've been on the fence about it, this is the time to do it because you are going to save a whole lot of money. All right. And let's see. Let's head over. Rapture ready. Thank you so much. Rapture is coming at a time you think it not. Well, then it probably wouldn't happen now because now everybody thinks it is the end of the world. I don't think it is the end of the world. I think it is we're in the middle of a war that nobody is calling a war yet. And yeah, Samuel Turner says World War III may kick off in days or weeks coming soon. Well, I'll tell you this, how they're angling everything right now. They're heavily talking about Afghanistan. We have to look at what happened. Like, look at the last few months of what we've been covering. It's weird that CIA was flying into Afghanistan, to Bagram supposedly, right? And then there were comments about how an Asian country had problems. And basically this expert said that, China would have a real big problem with the U.S. Taking over Bagram Air Base again. And that kind of told us, like, okay, well, what do you mean? Like, they're over in Afghanistan doing a lot of things? Well, supposedly they are. So I think it's kind of, again, another connection here where they are heavily involved in the Middle East right now. They've got the Silk Road, whatever initiative, whatever they're doing, and they're doing a lot of things for a lot of countries, and it really makes you wonder what the hell the real purpose of many of those partnerships are. And we said years ago when they did all of this, when they put certain countries and helped them out and gave them loans, and when those countries couldn't pay back, that they would then be in the debt of that country. I just wonder if that's starting to already happen and we're seeing the results of it. But again, just a question. And then thank you again, Samuel Turner. Russian launch site mishap shows perilous state of storied space program. Dex, do you want to go over this and what was happening here?
Yeah, so if the Sarmat wasn't bad enough, the ability of Russia to launch astronauts to the ISS now remains in limbo after an incident last week at the Baikonur base in Kazakhstan. So the launch pad Russia uses for sending astronauts and cargo up into space is out of commission after a mishap last week during the liftoff of a Soyuz rocket. The rocket itself headed to space without incident, taking 3 astronauts as well as one from NASA, two from Russia, one from NASA, to the space station. But the force of the rocket exhaust shoved a service platform used for pre-launch preparations out of its protective shelter. The platform fell into a flame trench below. So apparently there's a significant amount of damage from the destruction there at the site, and they no longer have the ability to launch. And that is their primary way to launch the Soyuz rockets up to the ISS. So they're out of commission at the moment. So strike 2 for Russia.
Now, Asnick says Russia ain't as tough as they thought, apparently. So, by the way, make sure to question everything. The media is, of course, going to frame everything as a fail. Well, I also question, China just had an issue with their space program. In fact, if you remember, their 3 astronauts got stuck, right? They were sending 3 to replace to their space station. Remember, they have their own space station for China now. The Shenzong Gong, whatever. I'm totally butchering it. So they have their own, and they were sending 3 astronauts to replace the other 3, and they said some little rock or some debris hit it and screwed it up, and they were stuck there. They very quickly figured it out and got back home, but it was like the transport for astronauts to go up and down to space damaged. And in this case, did somebody damage this down on the ground so that would happen? And then once it happens, what was that?
I was going to say, technically, they made it seem like they figured it out and got them home. They just send them home on the other spacecraft that was there. The one that's damaged is still damaged. So now the ones that are there are stuck. So it's like they said, oh, our astronauts are stuck. No problem. We'll send them home on this other ship. And the guys who showed up on that ship are now stuck. They have nothing to return it. But
they quickly got the news off of them. So once the guys get home, then everybody forgets about it. But the 3 astronauts up there right now they're stuck. That's China for you, because they don't want to look embarrassed, right? Xi Jinping, any kind of event like that, under the heavenly mandate, that looks bad on the president. Heck, if they have a tsunami in their country, the under the heavenly mandate, the culture believes that the leader, that's a sign that their leader is not doing well. If there's natural disasters and things like that. So there's a lot of things that, in their culture, he does not want to be embarrassed. I mean, look at how he treated the Winnie the Pooh things. I mean, he's almost as bad as Kim Jong-un about anybody talking smack about him. But in this case, right, now you have 2 adversarial countries having issues going up and down and shifting astronauts. And what are we being told? We're being told that right now there is a space war above us. 3 different officials from Space Force have told us, like, there's a war going on above our heads at all times. We've been told that they've weaponized space with directed weapons, right? We've been told that they have kinetic weapons that are to knock out satellites. We've been told that there's lasers and DW weapons that are for this as well. And we've been told that there's potential nukes and EMPs floating around all over the space, right? So is the U.S. a part of both of these events? Could they send a piece of debris flying in a gravitational orbit, perfect right to hit, some sort of ship there? That's a dangerous thing. You would think they would never do that, because that could start a domino effect. But have they figured out how to do that, or send a kinetic impactor to hit it? Are they trying to make sure that China and Russia don't go up and down from space? If there's weapons up there, it makes sense. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we be attacking their space weapons? China has all but admitted that their dang, space station is a weapon. They've said that this thing is vital for national security, and it's not just for spying. They have satellites. They can spy. So what the hell is the thing? All right. And then Samuel Turner, again, thank you for the big support. I hope all my fellow Marfites are making final additions to the prep. Time is short. I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay, so I want to preface the whole Sarah Adams thing with, everybody's going to have their own opinion on this, but I think it's pretty wild if you have followed him. Now, I actually was privy to this through a Fugel family member, and I'm trying to think of who tweeted me and said, hey, are you watching their thread today? She put out a post, a really, really detailed one about like last minute preps, like you need to get stuff ready, have a plan just in place, and just a caution, an abundance of caution. So we'll go over that here in a second, but she says pretty flat out what's going on. But first, let's talk about NATO mulling a preemptive strike against Russia to stop Vlad waging shadow war. When you see a headline like this, I mean, this is nuts. It seems like I could almost see something like this happening right as they get a peace deal signed. And then all of a sudden they go, well, yeah, they were acting like they were going to sign the peace deal, but they had 2 guys go in and blow up a train or something, right? As all of this is happening around the world, in all of our allied countries, we're having weird things happen. you're also having, these, claims of all of this sabotage happening from our adversaries. Dex, do you want to talk about the preemptive strikes they're talking about, or this one, Admiral?
Sure. Admiral Giuseppe Acabo Dragon, the chair of NATO's military committee, said the alliance could be forced to strike preemptively, which would be a toughening of its current policy of waiting to react. So obviously NATO is in a waiting to react mode right now. After they outline things like, the different things that Putin has been doing to Europe and the fires and the explosions and the undersea cables, et cetera, all of these inferences and activities they call that new age of war, new style of war campaign. But he said, we're studying everything. On cyber, we're kind of reactive. Being more aggressive or being proactive instead of reactive is something that we're thinking about. Dragon said that the revenge cyber attacks would be the simplest option because NATO member nations hold the capabilities to launch them. Retaliation for physical sabotage or drone incursions will be more complex, but is not out of the question. The admiral said that preemptive strike could, under certain circumstances, be classified as a defensive action. Though it is further away from our normal way of thinking and behavior, Dragon continued, being more aggressive compared with the aggressiveness of our counterpart could be an option. So they're wanting to be more aggressive than Russia has been aggressive. So the legal framework, jurisdictional framework, who's going to do this, et cetera, are all the questions they're trying to answer. But NATO has already been urged to abandon its reactive stance by several member states, particularly those on the Eastern Europe, which bear the brunt of Russia's aggression. As you know, like Estonia, Latvia, that area up through there, Poland, they've all pushed very hard to be more forward moving instead of just reactive. So this hybrid warfare is asymmetric. It costs them little and us a lot. We need to be more inventive, they went on to say. So what do you think? It just seems odd that we're in the midst of potentially securing a peace deal, ending the war in Ukraine with Putin and Zelensky, although, who knows if that would really happen. But even so, that's on the cusp here, and now they're coming out saying, you know what, we just might preemptively strike Russia. Let's just get this war going.
No, I don't know why it auto flagged that, but somebody said that Admiral Giuseppe Cavo Dragon equals idiot, right? I've actually seen that comment a bunch, and I don't know how everybody has an opinion about him. Like I don't study the admirals or whatever, but since so many of you do have that opinion, I wonder, why, right? But also, somebody said the sky is falling every day. Now, the media, this is one thing, and I think there's a gap in where people are and how they understand what's happening with all of this. For 10 years, the sky has not been falling. The sky has been changing color. The sky will never fall. Okay, the sky will turn red with crazy missiles. The thing is there's a gap though that people don't understand when the media is telling you that there's potential for nukes tomorrow or that they might preemptively strike. There's always a reason for this. Now, if they're telling the American people this and it's syndicated through all the media, if they're telling you that they're mulling over a preemptive strike, we have followed this, and anybody who's been here for a long time knows. We point this out before it happens, and it's not, you don't have to have a crystal ball. You just have to literally look at some of the things that are said in pieces, and you have to look at how they're saying it. Well, we're mulling it over. We're looking over this thing. Well, then you follow it through. You follow it through and see, did they actually do it? Did they actually do a preemptive strike? Well, because they go, well, we're mulling over giving storm shadows to Ukraine. We're mulling over giving them man pads. We're mulling over giving them, tanks. We're mulling over giving them jets. They gave them all of those things. They've done this, and they always put it out before so the public has a chance to argue about it and move on. The society moves on in a day, maybe two, in very rare instances, a week or two. Even back in the days where CNN and Fox would just replay 24-hour footage of something, like back when 9/11 happened, they would just play it. They played it for a month straight. The same clips repeated over and over and over and over and over and over. I mean, who knows what that was intended to do. I mean, we were all pissed. We were all united. It may have done whatever cause they wanted, right? But as far as when we are saying this, people have said this for years. Now, I know that some of my peers have been like, on Thursday, there's going to be a war. If somebody else says that Thursday there's going to be a war, we talk about it and we most definitely share it, because if there is any chance, if there is somebody out there saying it, then maybe there is a chance that it is truth. And the whole point of prepping is prepping for the unexpected. But also, if there is a sign out there, then you should be able to see that. Preppers look for signs on these things to try to get just the tiniest edge on a disaster or a natural disaster. That's why we do what we do. So there is a huge gap. There's people that they just don't have a prepper mindset whatsoever, and that's okay. But you have to understand, this has worked for preppers for a very long time. It worked for preppers before World War I. It worked for preppers before World War II. People really, the fact that people don't believe there's going to be a World War III says that they're unrealistic. That's unrealistic for us to, in a human culture that has not evolved one bit, that is devolved, that has gotten stupider, and our IQs have gone down since 2013. You'll go look up the stats. People hit their IQ peak, and now we're getting stupider because of machines and cell phones. You think that now that we're stupider and we've put more power in corporations and the money-hungry, in military industrial complex, you think that now are the days that war is in the past? Somebody made a good point about Trump, how he has done 12 countries. He has done peace talks for 12 countries, but yet he's not willing to do a peace talk for Venezuela. So it makes you really wonder, why isn't there any kind of real effort to try to make peace with Venezuela? It makes you think, is it peace we want, or is it peace in certain situations and it's resources or money, or there is something else going on that they're not telling us? It sucks to hear that a war is coming for 10 years, but that's what happened before World War II. It was 20 years. Before World War I, it was 30 years. People knew it was coming. And here's the difference between our country now and then. They used to tell people to prep. They used to teach people how to, have food. People actually were survived. They told people to have a Patriot's garden. I don't know what they used to call it. They told people to have a garden in their yard to grow their own food so they would be sustained through it. Because the leaders at one point actually did care that people were prepped through something like this. Now it doesn't fit the agenda. And I personally think it's because they don't mind if not everybody is prepped. And I think that with over 1 million of cyber phones that are just straight up bots on the internet to tell you you're okay, everything is fine, that it's pretty easy to think, oh, everybody agrees with me. But in reality, anybody with the gut and common sense that can see is looking at this and going, this is happening. And it's happening one step at a time. I don't say the war starts next week, but I will say this. Sarah Adams' predictions are saying that in the next 3 weeks or two or 3 weeks, that she, from open source information, which you go look at the stuff she's compiled. It's crazy. She posts the stuff and she posts links and she posts charts with all of the different stuff. She's saying that she believes that they're about to go into operational phase. What that operational phase is or what they're actually going to do, I don't know. But it could be a fantastic Freddy to get us started into World War. It could be a big distraction so they don't release the files. But one thing I do know is eventually we are going to hit a hard line. Our economy is busted. We are in debt. The dollar is now under threat by BRICS and digital currencies and all of these other things that are happening right now. And we have a adversary that within 5 years is going to be at parity in a ton of areas. So if you don't think that there's going to be a war, then I also must think that you think that U.S. is just going to hand over the reins to China. I don't think it's going to happen. Do you? Do you think Japan is going to hand over the reins to China? Do you think that they're going to give up their sovereign waters and let China roll up on them and make fake islands outside their island? I don't think so. But what do you guys think? Let me know. And then again, preemptive strikes. It's just nuts to even hear, that right now too. It's obvious. It seems like they're putting a seed in the back of your head. Zelensky's chief of staff resigns as Ukraine corruption investigations widen. Remember, in the very beginning, the first 2 years, media companies and media checkers were going after everybody that said that there was bad stuff going on there. And then the 9 people underneath Zelensky resigned because they had somehow supercars and super mansions, and they were on a military, paycheck. So something didn't really make sense there, right? And then remember, like when their recruitment center had just millions and millions and millions of dollars go missing, and their military recruitment center actually had an issue and a bunch of resignations. Yeah, I remember that. And then just a few weeks ago, you had more, and now you've got the chief of staff resigning due to corruption investigations. Here's an easy way. What are they driving? What kind of house do they live in currently? What is their public pay? That's a good way to figure it out. What's funny is that's not a good way to figure it out in the United States, because we have a system set up to where they can legally get to be millionaires, and they can even shove it in our face. But in this country, they're using a lot of our money. So, yeah. Dex, what do you think about this? Do you think that there's going to be
I'm less concerned about the corruption in Ukraine and more concerned about the corruption in America from Ukraine? Like, how much of that money that was funneled in there came right back into America through corrupt sources, and who did it go to? Like, who here is benefiting off of that? Like, they're corrupt over there, and not much I can really do about it other than don't send them any more money, which, thank God, we're not doing that anymore. But for all the years we sent all those billions, who here was reaping those rewards? That's the real question.
Yeah, it's like one of those guys that walks up to you in the parking lot and says, "Hey man, I just need a bus ticket, man. I'm stuck here. My family lives all the way in Chicago. I just need a train ticket. Could you just help me out with $15 to get the train ticket? And then if you did that, I would be totally gravy, man." The next night you come, they don't recognize you. "Hey man, do you have $15 for a train ticket to Boston? My family's there over. Oh, I gotta go to California. My sister's there and she's pregnant. She's having her baby and I'm missing it." After the first scam and you give them $15, you don't really feel too generous for giving the next one, right? How did we not learn? And there was 2 scandals while we were still giving them money. I'm glad that we're selling them stuff now, but are we selling them stuff and are they paying for it with our money? So now
it's all the other European countries that are paying for it. Ukraine's not paying for anything. They get everyone else in NATO to pay for it, which is so crazy. Yes, it's not our money. Yeah. At least it's not our taxpayer money. And the benefit is at least the people who have jobs at military industrial complexes get to keep paychecks because they're making money.
And this started right at the very end of when we all got off a lockdown, right? It was like we went from one thing right into the next. And the biggest bill signed and all of that money, it's just so crazy. Wait, what was in that? What was in that giant? Wasn't there giant money for something in that bill too? I know that there was the stimulus. There wasn't that was before. It was 2023 when this all started, right? No, it was 2022. Dex, wasn't it? Wasn't it March of 2022 or? I'm trying to think of when this is 3 years old now, so it has to be 2022.
Yeah, February 2022.
So did this overlap with CV, with us dealing with the lockdowns? Or were we off of it by then? I can't remember when
We were off of it by then. We just finished. That was what, 2020, 2021, mostly. A little bit of 2022, but mostly 2020 and 2021.
That's crazy. That is nuts. All right. And then Zelensky also says Ukraine territory most difficult issue as U.S. envoy prepares to meet Putin. So, Dex, you called it. You want to go?
I mean, look, it's the one sticking point he's going to have. He doesn't want to give up the regions that they lost to. It's the reason Putin invaded, according to Putin, was he wanted to take the territory that was rightfully Russia's from the historical times, and it's also the disputed territories where you had a lot of Russian-speaking residents. You had a lot of residents that lived in those territories that were from Russian descendant, and it was always a conflict there even before Russia invaded. There was always shelling going on in those regions. They've been fighting those regions for a long time over whether or not they should be in Russia or be in Ukraine. So, but look, I said it, of all the things in the 28 peace plan, which got whittled down to 13 or whatever the number is that they're supposed to agree to, the big one's going to be the territory and giving it up. And I mean, look, Zelensky's had his eye on Crimea the whole time. I mean, that's been a lost cause since 2014. So, I don't see any of that happening anytime soon. So he's either got to get over this or they're just never going to see a peace plan. And I think he's going to be left hung out to dry by the U.S. if they don't come to terms soon.
I mean, it's just it's exactly what the first thing when he Trump said he wouldn't even set a meeting with Zelensky until he agreed to do it. And most people guessed it's because they were thinking, oh, well, he wants to meet right away. They immediately said, hey, we want to meet before this. We want to meet, we want to talk to the president, because they assumed he was going to go president. But I can do everything, but I can't give him the territory. And now, the one comment, the territorial issue is the most difficult. So where's this few days ago, right before Thanksgiving, everybody's thinking, oh, it's ending. Some people emailed, said, look, the Russia-Ukraine thing's over. That's all, it's peaceful. So that's not going to cause any problems. See, another war that's going to end peacefully. Not so much. Both sides are always going to have a problem. Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out Harvest Right if you haven't already. This is an amazing machine. You can freeze dry your own stuff. And if you have a family, this is actually going to save you money in the long run. In fact, it could pay for itself. Now, if you have a big family and you're trying to prep for any disaster, whether it be a hurricane or a forest fire or an earthquake, then you know that freeze-dried food is super expensive, especially because they are doing the labor, they are packaging it, they're putting their taxes on it, they're, of course, putting their we designed the packaging tax on it. Well, again, this is a ton cheaper, especially if you have a family of 2, 3, 4, and you're trying to get 6 months of food freeze-dried, that's going to be long-lasting. Then this is definitely the way to go. Instead of buying bulk freeze-dried, you still can't match doing it yourself. Now, of course, doing it yourself, someone would say, oh, well, that's a bunch of work. It's actually really, really easy. People have turned this into a hobby. They find it fun. They freeze-dry all sorts of different stuff. They try recipes. And of course, there's whole groups and communities that do this right now. Go to YouTube. You can go find a ton of videos on freeze drying. And of course, there's just a whole, bright community there as well. I would have to say the same for canning and dehydration. There's a community there. But with this, again, this is one of the best machines during 2019 and all of that. People were scalping these. That's how wanted they were. So if there is an emergency, one thing that we learned is these things just totally disappear. Also, the circuitry, the chips that go into any kind of electronics, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I would highly recommend, if there's something like this, that you get one, before some sort of crazy demand. And also, again, if you have an EMP plugged into your house, this thing is going to be protected. So marfooglenews.com/freeze, but you can also go over and for free, you don't have to buy anything, enter to win one. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the Doomsday plane, and it's vanished over the Atlantic during a mysterious mission.
Yeah, so this happened on Black Friday. So, U.S. Navy Doomsday plane has vanished after embarking on a mysterious transatlantic mission. The Boeing E-6B Mercury was last seen crossing the Atlantic east of Virginia Beach on a public flight tracking system, 8:30 a.m. On Friday. It's one of just 16 specialized Doomsday planes. Mercury serves as a command and control hub for the U.S. Strategic Command, Secretary of War, and the President. It can transmit orders to carry out nuclear strikes if necessary. Flight data showed the aircraft departed Naval Air Station in Maryland and followed a routine southeast pass over the Chesapeake Bay, skirting the Norfolk Naval Complex before heading offshore. About 60 miles east of the Virginia Cape, its public transponder went dark. What they call a normal practice during sensitive operations. So if this is a sensitive operation, then what's going on? And that's where a lot of people are getting concerns because of everything and the rhetoric that would come up on Thanksgiving with, potential war down south, which obviously is not off of Virginia Beach, but nonetheless, a command and control plane or a Doomsday plane going up and heading out over the Atlantic, in which case it could then, position itself in a holding pattern, which is typical that it would do these paths that it would fly. It drops a multi-mile trailing wire flight racetrack patterns 4 to 8 hours while sending secure messages to submarines and the ground stations. That's sort of a typical thing it might do. But the question is, what was going on? Like, why did this happen? And, it could have just been routine training, but the day after Thanksgiving, in the midst of all this, we send up one of these planes and, the Doomsday plane, and then it goes dark. As opposed to the Doomsday planes that we see flying over the U.S. all the time, never going dark.
Yeah, this is odd, and a lot of the Foogle fans that follow all of the radar, this was definitely one of the unique ones, especially in this whole month. There's been really, really odd things happening on radar. But yeah, just to show you too, where all this kind of went down here. All of a sudden, and then boom, disappeared, and then vanished from radar. So now, Dex, I was Kathy Piana said that she had a migraine and had to go. So I was typing something, so I missed that last part you said about that. What did you mention that what you thought about this, or because some thought that this was a secret drill, or that this is even a secret mission and this thing's actually out and about doing stuff. But didn't it pop back on to the radar?
No, I don't know if it popped back onto the radar. I know it went dark, and by going dark is something that it usually does when it's doing a sensitive mission. And given everything that was going on.
Okay, so that's creepy if it hasn't popped back on. So we've covered previous stories where it goes dark and then shows up somewhere else, and there's some reason there. Sometimes if it's another kind of plane, it will be like a VIP transport, or it'll be a sensitive military mission. This is the Doomsday plane, where it's basically a mobile command center, and it went dark and it hasn't popped back up apparently. Nobody finds that weird? We've covered the Doomsday plane going up a lot. I mean, every time it goes up during sensitive areas, because here's the thing. We also know from history how many times our country has came super, super close to just an absolute disaster, and the public almost never finds out until afterwards, right? But so we do follow the Doomsday plane going up, or in any kind of case, because sometimes they know stuff that we don't, and they usually get their stuff ready. This is odd to me. That means it's went off radar for everybody, so nobody else is tracking it. It's kind of odd. Let me know what you guys think. If you're an expert on this, let me know, because I'm not. And then Google's CEO Sundar Pichai says we're just a decade away from a new normal of extraterrestrial data centers. This is just, and I know that there's going to be some people that just never, ever are going to believe something like this. But Google's moonshot aspirations to expand its AI footprint are taking on a more literal meaning. Sundar Pichai said in a Fox News interview on Sunday that Google will soon begin construction of AI data centers in space. That's terrifying. The tech giant announced Project Suncatcher. What a name. Project Suncatcher. Earlier this month, with the goal of finding more efficient ways to power energy-guzzling centers, in this case with solar power. One of our moonshots is to how do we one day have data centers in space so that we can better harness the energy from the sun that is 1 trillion times more energy than what we produce on Earth all day today. Dex, you know what this made me think of is the story that we covered quite a few years ago, or maybe it was 3-4 years ago, how they are now transferring power through microwaves and transferring power wirelessly from space to the ground. Did you think of that? Like this something could, you could have solar panels on the moon, and then supposedly, what if they had a beam and could beam power to Earth?
I think it's just, it makes total sense. I know I didn't think about power. I mean, I understand that concept, but this is all about computing and building massive AI data centers. And we're all feeling and reading and dealing with the effects of the massive data center sprawl that's going on in America right now. By everyone's power bill has skyrocketed because we don't have enough energy. We don't have enough electricity here on Earth, at least here in America, to support the growth of these data centers. And these data centers for AI are going to have to grow exponentially, and they're going to grow. As we saw, Elon built like one of the biggest ones in Memphis. And oh, by the way, he's building one 4 times that size in Memphis. So if that one wasn't big enough, he's got another one, Colossus, that's coming on board. So, these are just astronomically huge investments of equipment that are gobbling up our power. It makes total sense to move this stuff to space because they can position the equipment where it has 100% nonstop solar power. You don't have to wait for the sun to rise or set. You don't have to deal with clouds. You don't have to deal with weather. You got constant power, and you have cooling. It is super cold, obviously, and these things are producing tons of heat. And that's the other problem with these massive data centers is not only are they sucking up energy, but they also have to be cooled, which also creates another problem. So if, it's not just Sundar who's saying he's doing this, it's Elon and others, everyone, including China, are all trying to race now, not only to get to space, but to also put computing power in space because it makes logical sense. And I guess the crazy part is we imagine the future of our world with these massive data centers floating above us in the sky. And that is the AI that is controlling the world. And it's almost like it's in a movie, right? Like Skynet. It's almost like literally in the sky is going to be our future. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Somebody just made a question or a statement. Said, I'm pretty sure that the doomsday planes are always up in the air. I don't know if they're 24/7 up in there. That was what my thought was, that they always need to have at least one up there to have a mobile command center. But I think there was something we covered because the cost of that plane, that they just keep it ready and it's fully staffed 24/7. Like it's on the ground, but there's a full staff there waiting to go, and at any point it can take off. But I don't know. You could be right, but that's not the problem. It's the problem. We follow it all the time. If they go up and travel around somewhere, they follow it. It's when their transponders go off and they vanish over the Atlantic Ocean. That's that's something you don't see very often. But yeah, as far as the space power centers, it's just crazy. The power is just another way that everybody is going broke right now. A lot of people aren't hit as much as we are right now. There's a lot of videos out right now about how Oregon, Washington, the state I live in, and Idaho are the 3 worst places to live right now. It is absolutely just, for all of us locals here, it's horrendous. Everybody says just move.
It's taxes. You guys voted that in. Not
Yeah.
you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right? It's all taxes. Like your gas ain't any more expensive than our gas. It's just the taxes that are on it.
Yeah. Over $5 a gallon. We have we have four kids.
$2.39 here. $2.89 for premium.
Yeah, I hate you and everybody else with that gas price. Here it is over $5, this and that, and we have income tax, and we have all this other stuff. It's like it's insane, and we have some of the highest prices on everything. Milk is $9 if you want to go organic, or eggs are. I remember the first time I bought eggs in a while because my wife usually bought them. I couldn't believe it. I was like 11 or 12 bucks for eggs. It's like all of these things that everybody has talked about to the point of it being cliche. This is happening. And it just seems like they're bleeding us dry to get us to where we're open to anything as long as we're not just sitting here broke. The carbon tax is highest in the country, the highway says. Yeah. It's crazy that that gas is now we have an SUV. It has a 24-gallon tank. I mean, we have to have an 8-seater because we have 4 kids. So 24 gallons at 5, it costs over $120 or something to fill every single time. And it doesn't get great mileage because it's supposed to haul around 8 people. So yeah, it sucks. It eats up everything. And then Trump to hold Venezuela Oval Office meeting amid growing questions. Now, we don't have the exact update on this yet because this has most likely already went down. Or it could still be going. It could be one of those meetings where it goes all night and they decide to go to war in the morning. But one thing we do know is that they are, everything points to that there is some sort of movement happening in Venezuela. I've heard time and time again that they're moving all of this Navy there to scare him into just resigning or leaving, or that they're going to do all of this, putting the Navy here, 15,000 troops, 11 warships, and that they are just going to take him out and then do something different. I don't know. And then again, we did cover last week, the money has been approved. They have approved the funding to keep the current level of troops there in the Caribbean for years until 2028. So when you follow the money, when you look at what they've approved and what their expenditures, what they're actually getting put into the books, they're essentially saying they're going to be there until 2028. So is this just to scare Maduro, or is this going to be, another war? Everybody keeps comparing this to Latin American Vietnam, but I've also heard locals, because I've never been to Venezuela, but I know they have the jungles. They say that the jungles nobody lives in. The locals say no. The jungles wouldn't be where the military would be going because there's nobody important there. There's nothing there that they would be fighting for. And strategically and geographically, they don't need to do that to get in. There's cities on the water. They would need to go in through cities, not jungles, right? But people do fear that. Dex, have you heard other people fearing that this is going to be another Vietnam type of situation where guerrilla tactics and guerrilla warfare is going to make it impossible to win?
That's always the case. Like every war since then, spent a ton of time and a ton of money and didn't get a lot in return. So why should it be any different, right? I mean, look at Afghanistan.
Which, of course, the Afghanistan stuff all over oil. What are these new wars over? Minerals for batteries? BNB 2659. Been watching you, Dex, a long time. Always do look forward to your show. And see, I hate how it does that. Forward to your show. Thank you for all that you do. Hey, well, thank you, BNB. I appreciate that. Thank you, Shirley Millward, Ryan Alter, Dragonfire, and Sean CTX. Thank you so much for saying thank you. All right, and then James WIS, Jen, thank you so much as well. Frank Walls, Thank you as well. Batteries and computer chips. Yep. Ida, about the oil, not drugs. All right. By the way, if anybody wants to see, my fancy dinner tonight is mac and cheese. If we didn't have that carbon tax, it probably would have been steak. All right. And then, yeah, this meeting, we'll update you tomorrow on what that ends up being. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. We're going to go over the Sarah Adams thing right after this, so stick around. But I do want to, again, show you guys one of the best generators on the market. This is also a generator we've stood behind for years. They stopped selling it to the public, especially when they got the huge contract with the U.S. Army. This is the exact Flex Tactical that the Army is getting. You can actually get one for yourself. Well, they have supplies. Go over to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle, not only to save a few $100, but also to, of course, get yourself prepped for any kind of disaster, whether your power goes off, they have rolling blackouts, you just want to use power where there isn't any power. You can actually bring this to a work site or a campsite. Again, you can power your lights, power your stuff, or you know, just have it for emergencies. It's modular, meaning that you can actually add batteries and just clip them on. Again, those clamps are just absolutely amazing. This is made tough. It has a steel reinforced frame. This is made to fall off the back of a Humvee. So again, this is what we recommend. It's going to last a long time, especially with the newer battery technology. They have made it to where degradation is very, very small over many, many years. So again, great generator, marfooglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. All right, now let me pull up this. Let me pull this up here real quick. I'm gonna pull up my Twitter here. All right, so there's a bunch of stuff over on my Twitter, and it's funny because I just had Grok quoted me, and I don't know if it was because they were trying to be relevant, but it actually quoted me on the 9X thing with the Asian culture. I do want to correct though, I've been talking about how this year compared to last year, Asian arrests went up 9X. There is a correction. The piece that we were reading was going off a specific fact that it was of a certain time in July compared to July, and it was 1 week compared to 1 week, which it was a giant number. Huge number of the Asian community got arrested all in 1 week. So they looked at it from 2024 to 2025, and that number jumped extraordinarily high, 9X. But it's not 9X year to year. It's that 1 month and that 1 week. It was extraordinary. And the reason I say that is because I find it very interesting that a lot of these big raids have been on Asian cultures, and not the public, very big public ones have not so much been on Hispanic communities or the majority of people that are usually coming in illegally from down below. We have had people coming in from all over the world, and now there are even more information. Sarah Adams also posted another tweet, which was verified, a gentleman that was going over all of the verified numbers that came into our country. There were 25 to 30 million immigrants in the country. In Biden's, they said that there was something like 20 million more let in. And then the rest of the immigrants, because somebody was quoting a number around 100 million, which would be like a third of our population. That includes visas and legal documented people in the country. But to have 20 million people, if that is anywhere near close, that is so scary, because not the 19.5 million that came in to look for a better life, it's the 500,000 that came in that could be troops from all of the adversarial countries. Now, if you're not familiar with Sarah Adams, she did an interview on the Sean Ryan show, And she's been posting a lot. And I'll just read a part of this here for you. Let's see here. It says, we are reaching the end of the series of tips to help you prepare you, your family, and your community for Al-Qaeda's current homeland plotting. Many of the tips are saved under my highlights tab. If you missed them, you already know. It is time to stop waiting for another round of guidance to tighten up your plans you've already put into place. As I've made clear, we do preparedness for as long as the terrorists remain in their pre-attack phase. They are now only a couple of weeks out away from moving into their operational phase. That is when your posture must shift as well, from preparing to being vigilant, disciplined, and ready to act. This requires a major reset in the mindset, but you can do it. You are much more prepared than you think. Now, she goes over all the stuff. I want to point out, I don't believe she has any links, any sales, or anything. She has the only links are information. So I could be wrong. If you can, I've looked through her entire thread and her entire sites and stuff. One thing I want to point out is, for those that say, oh, she's just trying to get clout or something like this, she's asked on almost every show now. People want to know about what she's saying. She is saying through open source intelligence that she is finding that there is a planned attack from Middle Eastern countries and that they are revamping these groups. She has been posting about Hamza bin Laden or somebody. I don't know if he's a relative of the main one, but they're saying that there's new structures that are actually forming and that the chatter in the Middle East is that they're planning this big event here and in Europe. Are they doing that just because they hate us a lot? Or are they getting help? Are they getting paid from other countries? Is this a coordinated thing on a many state actors involved? I don't know. Is it completely made up by Sarah Adams? I don't think it's made up because there's a lot of information that you could go look. It would be a CIA op. That would be more likely, right? She's ex-CIA. Sean Ryan, the show she went on, he's supposedly ex-spook as well. So we're not just going to believe it and go, sell our house and move out to the woods today. But I do believe people should have a plan and in the next 3 or 4 weeks, be very vigilant and know what's going on. Dex, I don't know if you can get a chance, but you should check out the posts. She does some of her opinion pieces, but about every 8 hours, 16 hours in the last 4 days, she's putting out some crazy stuff. And again, the beginning of this year, she essentially went on a bunch of shows and she said, hey, I believe that we are about to be attacked. Go listen to those interviews for yourself and tell me what you think. Most people got the genuine feeling that she is telling the truth. So I would love to get your opinion. Dex, what did you think when you watched Sarah Adams? I know you've seen clips of her and what she was talking about.
Oh yeah, she's very knowledgeable and very passionate about what she believes, and she's got, I guess, some level of credibility, and I've got no reason to think that she's just making it up, other than the fact that she could be tied to the 3-letter agency still, which they always are, but you have to take that with a big grain of salt.
Here's the thing though, she's extremely smart. Now, I may mess up sometimes, but I'm very careful how I word things, especially because I know it matters. She's not saying this that they may be going in. She's basically saying it as it's a fact that they're going into operational phase in a few weeks. The way that she phrases it. They're now only a couple weeks away. Like there's an actual date and a time that this is all happening. Now there's a lot of dates and times thrown out by a lot of people on the internet. But go watch her interview, see what you think about it, because it's not the typical straight up just saying the world's going to end tomorrow. And then when it doesn't end, oh, well, we all prayed it away, so it didn't happen.
Right. So what happens if, January 1st rolls around 4 weeks from now and we don't see any of this operational stuff? She's basically putting it out there, right? She's putting she's putting a date out there herself. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it.
Well, here's the other thing. What if she's right? Do you think that her as an open source analyst is seeing something that the U.S. government isn't? At the same time, Tom Homan is all of a sudden, sending just tons and tons of ice to this state, Dearborn, Michigan, where they just had this huge, big meeting where everybody was chanting, New America. You have ICE all over the country. You have National Guard in many cities right now for the last few months. So if we don't see anything, people go, see, nothing happened. But what if we are literally seeing them essentially address it, right? National Guard in all the cities. We've clamped down the border. We are going after all of the countries where all of these people came in. And if there was ever a land invasion on top of a Navy invasion, because they can't teleport here, basically underneath us would be where China could come in if they got the right people in charge of all of those countries. And say if somebody, I don't know, has a problem with people bringing tanks through a certain city, maybe their city loses their mayor and their mayor just gets taken out. I don't know, right? I don't know. Something just doesn't sit right. And then down in the Darien Gap, how there was that mystery bridge. They said they called it a tank-wide column being built in the middle of the jungle. That to me was a big sign that it's not just going to be people walking through that, are going through that. There's been a lot of rumors over the years that there could be tanks or Russian tanks or Chinese tanks, here or there. We're not going on rumors. We're going on, look at everything and make your own opinion. Don't believe me. Look at all of this stuff that's happening. And after you've heard the idea of what we think is going on, then possibly you might start seeing it. I think that there is a huge event happening, and I'm hoping that they address it. I hope that they clamp down on it. I hope that all of this is to address it, and it's not what people, I hope it is never going to happen. I have kids. I don't want to sit in the dark for 6 months. And I don't want to barter, salt for toys for my kids, right? So you guys have a wonderful night. Make sure to follow me over on Twitter. You can, of course, go to the website. You can find it there. You can, of course, can find it down. If you want to go to our website, you can actually find all of our wonderful friends, including our awesome mods. You can just go to the website, and up at the top, you can actually go to Friends, the last tab, and you can find all of our awesome moderators. Again, that last tab, Friends, has all of the awesome mods and tons of creators that you should check out. Stephen McMahon, Michael Yawn, and ex Special Forces Dud. Let's see here. And an on-ground investigator says that the border has not been closed and cites a bridge in the Darien Gap. And you're talking about our border, right? And I don't think it's closed. Well, sorry, I misspoke. They say that they've clamped down on it better than they ever have before. I'm sure that somebody could get through. There can't be somebody every ounce of our border. Michael Yawn, an ex-Special Forces Dud and on-ground investigator, says that the border has not been closed and cites a bridge in the Darien Gap. So yeah, that's the bridge I was talking about. Go look up the tank-wide column in the Darien Gap. It's weird. They did find out who ended up paying for it, and I don't know if it ended up relating to a shell company or what, but it's just weird. Why do they need to spend millions of dollars for a bridge in the middle of the jungle? It doesn't make sense. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Thank you so much for our top supporter tonight. Samuel Turner, thank you. Stephen McMahon, I believe you're number 2. Rapture Ready, after that, B&B, after that, Angela Profelli, Dr. C-Mac, See Your Think, James, D. Griffin, W.I.S. Jan, Annie, Shirley Millward, Chance Paladin, thank you as well for modding. Thank you all of the moderators tonight. I appreciate that. And you guys have a wonderful night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.